Number 4, Project MK Ultra. This was the CIA's extensive program, mind control program, okay? And it was a conspiracy theory for over 2 decades until partially declassified in 1975. Now, most of the documented government mind control programs worldwide are not so, well, most of them are rumored or there's sketchy information, but Project MK Ultra is the one to focus on if you want absolute 100% proven conspiracy theory in this conspiracy fact in this realm of mind control or, you know, neurology and so on. So neurological research. And essentially this is behavioral engineering, okay? So what you're doing with this, it began in the early 1950s and it was run through the CIA's Scientific Intelligence Division. And it continued for a quarter of a century. And it used thousands of American and Canadian citizens as its test subjects without their consent or knowledge. And what's interesting also is that President Gerald Ford set up a commission after he found out, after it was declassified in 1975, and this is an indication again that things are above the president. I believe there are many, many levels above the president. As soon as President Ford found out about this, he set up a commission to investigate MK Ultra and other CIA activities. And it actually led to Senate hearings on MK Ultra, in which Senator Ted Kennedy stated, the deputy director of the CIA revealed that over 30 universities and institutions were involved in an extensive testing and experimentation program, which included covert drug tests on unwitting citizens at social levels, high and low, Native American and foreign. And I happen to believe that this is following the same mind control protocols laid down by the Nazis, which again ties into the earlier conspiracy fact I mentioned, which is Operation Paperclip, in that many of these paperclip scientists were actually involved in MK Ultra. And that can, although this is, I'm getting into slight speculation in this part, just this part here, and I want to clearly differentiate whenever I go off briefly away from the absolute facts. I make a connection that the paperclip scientists that were involved in MK Ultra may have been launching from the psychiatric research they did in the Holocaust, particularly in the Dachau camp, from memory. And what's interesting also is, so like I said, they followed the same protocols laid down by the Nazis, and that included the CIA selecting people from the most vulnerable sectors of American society to experiment on. So that's the orphans, the mentally ill, prisoners, the poor, the handicapped. So all those who didn't have a voice or the wherewithal to fight back or to report what was going on. And these CIA doctors and the MK experiments incorporated various methods to manipulate people's brains. You know, stuff like electromagnetic signals, sensory deprivation, hypnosis, electroshocks, even sexual abuse, and of course drugs. The main part, one of the biggest parts of MK Ultra was LSD. Now, supposedly MK Ultra was shut down in the 1970s after all this came out, and supposedly again the CIA no longer has any interest in creating mind control puppets or assassins. But that's been disputed by a lot of whistleblowers and researchers. There's a mind control expert and award-winning author I'd recommend, Dr. Alan Sheflin. And he's for years he's claimed that thanks to the CIA, MK Ultra is still alive and well. Now I imagine he's using MK Ultra there as a, how can I say it, like an umbrella term. So not exactly, I doubt it's still called MK Ultra, but it would be, he's using that to mean the same more advanced mind control would continue. And there are declassified documents to indicate that the CIA is creating, you know, is either creating mind-controlled assassins, or they're at the very least they're continuing this mind control research. And I'd recommend a book called The Mind Manipulators by Dr. Sheflin, who I just mentioned. And that taps into, you know, Manchurian Candidate ideas. But there's another confirmation, and that's by another it's a psychiatric doctor, Colin A. Ross, who he's president of an Institute for Psychological Trauma, and he says he's used the Freedom of Information Act to source US government documents that again show that the CIA and different branches of the military continue to be extremely active in the mind control business. And that's certainly my belief, that these things continue, but somehow they've become ironclad and completely declassified, whereas before we seem to be able to, it was more easy to get this stuff through the Freedom of Information Act or whatever else. So yeah, to summarize that one, mind control experiments are extremely real. They carried on for 25 years, so they must have had a fair amount of success to keep going. And MK Ultra is, again, a conspiracy fact.